And now just coming to the municipal golf courses, first of all Brackenwood. We've had 2 expressions of interest in there. Those expressions of interest scored highly and were very close together, and our recommendation is that both of those merit going through to the detailed business planning stage.
We have to remember that we're not just allowing the community, to have some of these assets, it's the community's right to bid.
I'm really pleased the asset transfer process is proceeding well for Brackenwood Golf Course.
In 3.11 in the agenda, it talks about the golf offer, and it says that there'll be some ancillary benefits from walking and using some of the spaces on the course for community areas. Just want to say really that the potential social and environmental benefits to Brackenwood of the CAP process are a lot greater than that implies, and I was always very confident that the golf club share that belief as well, and I think Mr Marsh has demonstrated that this evening in what he said. There's a really big potential there for projects like rewilding, increasing biodiversity, increasing the tree canopy. There's a huge amount of support for Brackenwood, a lot of community support for Brackenwood in the local area, but the majority of the community aren't golfers. It's the green space they value. So there's a real opportunity here to make Brackenwood not just a golf course with a footpath around the side, but a really special place for everyone alongside the affordable golf offer.
And one comment I will say, golf clubs I know very clearly have for years and years been probably forerunners of biodiversity. They've actually got a lot of biodiversity already there, so I think that the golf clubs are already on the case for that.
First of all, I'd like to commend the Brackenwood Golf Club and their officers for the tremendous work they've been doing to keep the course viable during this current period. A lot of work, voluntary work, has gone in, which is really tremendous. On the golf, clearly, there's an impatience there. They'd like to move the process even faster than we're able to do it.
I want to really say thank you very much to all the people in Brackenwood that have written to us. Many of us have received so many emails, and we've hopefully responded to most of them, I'm sure, but that is wonderful to see the community engaged here and going forward in relation to those 2 potential bids. So that's really exciting. Not so long ago, the community absolutely was in fear. There was real concern and real worry in our community about so many of these golf courses and libraries and what we were going to lose.
The officer recommendation, based on that information that we have and those issues that I just briefly outlined, is not to transfer Brackenwood Golf Course through a community asset transfer, but to consider it to be used for the provision of pitches and biodiversity net gain, which helps to support the local plan, and that's.
I have something to move. I've received a couple of amendments. We'll come to that, but let's have a discussion in general about what David's recommendation is, which I won't be moving.
There are loads of football pitches which are being left unused on a Saturday, which are able to be used. What I do say is biodiversity net gain does not go exclusively against golf courses. There are plenty of golf courses that do have a very good biodiversity net gain. So as far as I'm concerned, what I'm looking in front of us, I understand what the officers' concerns are, I totally understand what they're saying, but I think there is an opportunity to, 1, keep the golf course going, and 2, actually have that biodiversity gain. So I don't support the officers' recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, obviously the local plan's really important to us. It's important to the golf club as well. They've got a solid plan on biodiversity and they've got the means to deliver it. So
even if we were minded to turn some of Brackenwood into football pitches, are we convinced that the topography of the land is actually suitable? A lot of it is sloping, a lot of it is subject to poor drainage. Could we really practically put football pitches on there even if we wanted to?
Brackenwood is a lovely facility, so mindful of the people who have been looking after the course for the last 2 years or so since the pandemic. Certainly from the statements tonight, you can see how dedicated the people are who belong to these institutions, and that as a group come to the best decision we can do for the whole of the community.
This is democracy that we're faced with here, and this room here is our democracy. Those are our residents from Wirral as a whole, and they are speaking loud and clear tonight. And we're not always going to agree with the officer recommendations, it must be said. You've been giving exemplary stewardship to the course. It's incredibly well maintained. You've been great custodians of the land. So we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for the work that you've all been doing to support this.
I'd be interested to know then what the environmental implications would be when it comes to football pitches, materials used, how they could attract pollinators, like perhaps the roughs and the golf areas could. And also the drainage. Has a feasibility study been done yet? I've been to the site as well, and the car parking doesn't look brilliant. Last time I played football, there were 22 of us plus spectators, so we're bringing more traffic in an area that simply doesn't look ready for it.
That you are replacing a golf course that has a membership, that has a passionate following, with some pitches, the strategy for which we're still thinking about but needs to be looked into in some detail, and the risk of that, which we haven't quantified as yet. The biodiversity element of the argument, I don't think holds true, because any golf course, I know my golf course, Caldy and Royal Liverpool, all have biodiversity, and it's very well done on all golf courses. 115 acres, they will have loads of biodiversity. We've heard somebody talk about that, who's a biologist. So I think that doesn't hold, but we need to save this golf course because it's a lovely course and it's a part of a community that uses it regularly and are very proud of it.
I think the sense in the room is, as elected members, we would really like to transfer this golf course to one of two interested parties. I propose that we start negotiating with Brackenwood Community Golf Club Limited on the basis of their business plan to seek to agree heads of terms to transfer the course and report back on the outcome of the negotiations and options which support local plan priorities for decision by this committee. I've proposed it. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Graham's happy to second. Can we all agree by assent? Agreed. Okay, thank you. That will be minuted. Thank you, everybody.
They did make another proposal to look to retain an 18-hole golf course, biodiversity net gain, public access and some pitches. That would need a reconfiguration of the course, but we'd need more information on that to see whether or not that would be a workable proposition from a financial perspective. But you know, a hybrid type approach like that is something that would be very helpful, similar to what we're trying to pursue at the moment on Hoylake Municipal. Is that we think we would need to try and get some pitches from Brackenwood, or try and maximise that in some way in discussions with Brackenwood Community Golf Limited, if that was possible. If that isn't possible, then our recommendation tonight would not to transfer the course for these considerations.
As you may know, unfortunately, I'm not going to move your recommendation. My position, and when we were last here and Jenny seconded, my position hasn't changed on wanting to transfer this course, but most of us have received, haven't we, extensive, brilliant examples of all of those community benefits for this particular site.
And you mentioned one of the options potentially was a hybrid approach around still maintaining an 18-hole golf course, having some playing pitches and having that biodiversity gain.
It's the location of the course itself. So you can see in our papers the pressure on the oval as a leisure centre, and it has pitches of all different shapes and sizes and courses, and this is in such close proximity that I'm concerned that sports pitches here would just, negate any viability of the oval. But
I'm looking at the golf course, and I'm thinking to myself, there's no parking problems for anyone around. If I go past Greasby, there's terrible parking issues. If I go past Arrow Park, when they're having a football on, you can't even get down Arrowbrook Road. So if this was going to be turned into a football area or multi-sports area, just say, how much provision for parking will be needed? Because you'll get people coming from all over and you don't want people parking in the roads. So you're going to have to build one massive car park, especially nowadays where it's one person driving and one child in the back going to football. So how can you do that and not impede on all the other residents in the area?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask, in Keith's statement, he said about 39 pitches that he'd proposed. Is that included in the pitch strategy of those pitches being reviewed?
As I've looked at the environmental impact, can't see much detail in that. Other than carbon emissions and building and everything else. Given the fact that you just mentioned about significant parking and we've mentioned coaches, and I would expect to see something coming to this committee in the future about the environmental impact of this type of coming through. Thank you.
But my angle is really the loss of mature trees. You know, we're talking about putting large numbers of pitches onto what is a parkland site. I was round there the other evening talking to some residents, and the number of mature stands of trees there that would have to be grubbed up would be significant. You know, we talk about biodiversity net gain. You'd end up with a net loss initially in quite the medium to long term. You know, it takes what mature oak trees, they don't produce acorns for 40 years. Oak trees aren't considered mature until they're 80 to 140 years old. You know, the biodiversity net gain is going to take quite a long time to kick in if we start grubbing up mature trees. That's all I wanted.
The chair's been saying, there's a real issue here that we've been through this. We've made these decisions. We've actually asked you to go away and agree these heads of terms, David. I've got a great deal of respect for you, but your recommendation simply has already been rejected. I don't understand why we're here again. This group have worked on biodiversity net gain for you. They've worked on community benefit. They have given you everything you've asked of them. You've had 4 months to explore where potential pitches could go if they were going to give up any of the potential land for this. As in Councillor Cameron, I'm very, very interested in looking after our greenbelt. Of course I am. I'm passionate about that. But I'm also passionate about our community and our democracy. This is a democratic decision. We are listening to so many people in our locality here who absolutely want this to be retained as a golf course. I've heard nothing. I've heard nobody wanting this to suddenly be transformed into playing pitches and such like. So I'm very sorry, but your playing pitch strategy needs to be elsewhere. As far as I'm concerned, we need to move ahead. The decision was made last time. We're here again. You're putting before us a recommendation we've already said no to. So I am firmly opposed to your recommendation, and that's the context of it. Thank you.
So at this point in time, I'm minded to move that we propose that we authorise the Director of Resources to conclude negotiations on the heads of terms in Appendix 2 to seek to transfer Brackenwood Golf Course once an increase in the rent proposal is agreed and some provision for very small, possibly just 2 tennis courts maybe or pitches have been explored. And this should form part of the recommendation to Policy and Resources Committee because the asset value is over 950,000. So it's going to come back to Policy and Resources anyway. We have, from Policy and Resources currently, we have quite a few. We already had some earlier as well. So that proposal, are you happy to second that, Jenny, that we authorise? Did you want to come in?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't sure if it was an amendment, thanks. And some provision for small sports pitches is just at least explored, but I'm not making that conditional. But